Hand that pick.
And now the end is near, so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear and state my case, of which I'm certain. Ladies and gentlemen, I've lived children of all ages, welcome to the Robb Crocker Show, starring myself, Alexander Gonzalez, along with Jared Burrows, JB himself.
That's right.
And, of course,
The one and only.
the man, the myth, the legend.
Robb Crocker. Welcome back.
Hey, let's get it on, guys. Let's get it on. If it's not black, it's got to be white. Dance with the devil, walk with the angels, the story of our life.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. We got a lot to talk about today. We got plenty of topics. But first of all, this show, as always, is sponsored by the best whiskey in all of Colorado, Branch and Barrel, sitting here with the Tawny Port Aged. We have as well the Wheated Bourbon and the Flagship Bourbon, both great whiskeys that I personally love. So definitely check them out, link below. We've got, of course, Blackheart gear. Jared's repping the hat. And we've got a new hat that Crocker is repping over here.
A nice red. Yeah.
It's orange, Jared.
Absolutely. It's orange. Love it.
So make sure if you want to get these hats right now, message us on social media or using the email below, and we'll get you hooked up with one of those. And anyway, let's get started. So let's just dive into it, Crocker. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, I think that really affects all of us, especially the three of us, especially me, because I travel so frequently. Since Donald Trump has been elected, there's been more airplanes falling out of the sky, running into one another, or incidents that you've seen on TV. Did it happen before, or are we just seeing this now because Trump's president?
I do think it's quite a coincidence that we've been seeing it now pretty much since January. It's happening a lot more. And I think we might have talked about this last week, but my question really is it happening more or is it being shown and reported more? I'd like to look more into that as well.
That's kind of where I was at, because I think anytime the media has the ability to throw negative light at President Trump, they can do that. But also, it scares the shit out of me because I'm on a plane once a week. Predominantly, I fly Delta. And I don't know how you guys would react, but if I'm on a plane landing and I flip upside down, I'm not going to be excited to fly the following week. Then the following
or
week,
ever again,
and it fills up with smoke. It just, are the people working at airlines sabotage?
I mean, I'm
or
not,
is it just an accident?
people that work at the airlines sabotaging the planes. I mean, that'd be insane. But two, I do want to bring up, we've seen this happen before, like, with the whole Boeing situations. A lot of Boeings were being affected. And now we're seeing more and more different types of planes being affected.
Scott Norris says fly Spirit. Interesting.
Hey, ironically, Spirit has the clearest flight record.
Right.
But you've got to somehow make it through their terminal without being in a fight. Then you also have to make it through their gate agents that are physically fighting one another. So it's a double-edged sword.
And
Fly
you got
on a good plane, hopefully.
Yeah. The only thing that's wrong with Spirit is your flight's always going to get delayed or canceled. So it's like you'll make it there safe, but probably not on time. But at least you know you're going to be safe and sound eventually.
Yeah, by the time you get there, you have to turn back around and be late coming back.
Well, then when you get back, you've got to worry about the gate agent There was something that I saw this morning that two beautiful African American guys had a discrepancy, and their terminology of how they were going to fight was classic.
Did you under?
The verbiage, I didn't even know how to speak like that. But did you guys see the fight in the Atlanta airport?
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't hear the audio, but I did see the fight. I don't know if you sent it or you did send it to us, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, all I had to do was read the headline, really, and I could guess what was happening.
I can't imagine. Atlanta's a big port. I've never been. I don't know where Spirit is, where it flies out of, but I did see the gate agent at Spirit, who both worked at Spirit, confront one another, and it was kind of...
So now,
But again, they have a perfect flight record.
yeah. So essentially, not only do you have to worry about the customers, you have to worry about the people that work there. And really, the safest option is, surprisingly, when you're going through TSA. After that, it's all downhill.
Well, that's ironic, because some of the low fare, every airport, and everybody's out there doing the best they can with the job that they have. So I was impressed with the Southwest pilot today that was getting ready to land, and a jet pulled out in front of him. He maneuvered, got it up, everybody came around, and everybody was safe. So that's what we want to hope for.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, it's not strictly like a DEI situation. I mean, if it is a DEI pilots, let's just get rid of them before they get rid of themselves.
It's either a deep state situation or a DEI situation.
Either
Which
way,
is still
it
a
starts
deep
with D.
state. Yeah.
Well, have you guys ever looked at the people? I'll give you an example. Probably right at a year ago, I was flying and there was a mechanical issue. And the guy came on board with a book about this thick. And he got up in the cockpit and he started mechanic. Now, we might have talked about this on the show back then. I can't remember. But I would have never let this guy work on my truck or car.
Yeah.
I feel like I do remember you talking about this, yeah.
So he got it fixed, and pilot said we're good to go, and we took off, and my faith was in that mechanic's hand, my life.
Yeah, unfortunately, now you hear we're ready to go, and it's still second guessing yourself, like, are we going to make it?
Well, I know when you look out the window, pieces of plane are missing. I don't think we should probably take off.
No, definitely not. But honestly, yeah, I'm looking forward to see, because I'm sure that if there is something fishy going on, we'll find out about it, and we'll hear about it very soon through this administration.
Speaking
of finding out things about JB and I have discussed a little bit of disappointment regarding the Epstein, MLK, all those files not being after they were told to be released.
Yeah, how do you feel
that hasn't happened?
How do you feel about that? It was talk that day one, Castrotel and Pam Bondi together would release the Epstein list. It still hasn't happened. Is this one of these situations where we're talking about promises made, promises not kept?
Whoa.
Or is there more to the story? Are they trying to make sure, withhold, innocent names from actually being hurt, so to speak, by the byproduct that's being released?
Well, I don't know about the innocent name. People leaked a potential list for the Epstein scenario, and I know the Trump administration, with people he's put in place, is losing credibility because of what you said, Jay. Day one. And it hasn't happened.
And he says, Bondi said that apparently. Tulsi Gabbard said that they are on her desk, which I do remember her saying that. I think, and Jared and I have talked about this before.
Yep.
It's almost as if they're trying to wait for as much to make sure they have the story straight and as much information as possible. Because if they start releasing all the information, people are going to start running. I think that their goal is to at least make sure they're able to get the highest, like, so quote unquote, highest ranking people as soon as they can before they scatter and go into hiding. That's just kind of my theory behind it. It's almost like they don't want to get started too soon without having all the information readily available or having a plan ready. But again, I do get what you were saying in terms of like, hey, day one, this is going to happen. If you don't think, or if you don't plan that to be the case, first of all, don't say it. Because if you do, yeah, exactly, you're losing credibility. And especially, too, when we have a media that will do anything and everything to make this administration look bad.
Well, the preliminary list, I don't know where those people are going to go hide, because there were some credible people that I'm not going to say or speculate, because I don't want anybody to sue Crocker, Gonzo, or JB. But it'll be interesting when the list is released.
Yeah, I do know for a fact that it's coming, hopefully sooner rather than later. I think that arrests will be made. We do know almost for a fact that Adam Schiff is one of the worst of the worst when it comes to this kind of stuff. That's been said and hinted at multiple times. And if you just look at his face, you can agree. So we'll see him go down.
It would be a blessing. I would love to see that cocksucker on that list.
100%.
That would be tremendous, JB.
I think we're going to see a lot of people that aren't surprising, and a lot of people that, maybe not a lot of people, but a few people that might be surprising.
I hope this is a good way to lift the veil, so to speak. And, because you have to understand, most of these individuals on the Diddy list, as well as the Epstein list, are actual local heroes to people who vote Democrat. And the irony of this is it's going to hurt a lot of people, but I really hope it wakes up a lot of people. Even though, my God, it's 2025. This should have happened already.
Who do you think it would actually wake up, Jake?
Well, it gets to the point where why would you continue to vote for the Democratic Party when all their stars...
You realize people actually saw Kamala Harris. They actually listened to her, and they still voted for her dumb ass.
Yes, but we're talking about crimes against humanity and crimes against children now, not just because she's a woman and running for president and she's youthful, right? It's not about that anymore. It's not about character. It's about actual, like, what someone actually did wrong.
I do think that since 2016, a lot of people have been waking up and either switching parties or just realizing that the Democrat Party is not what they have been saying it is. I think because people have consistently been switching sides, and a big part of why people may not be seeing it quite yet is because obviously we talked about media lying and using distractions from the truth, as well as the 2020 scandal, which you don't like talking about, but that is a fact. And we're now being able to see more clearly that there have been a lot of people that have switched sides, that there are more Republican voters than there are Democrat voters, because a lot of them are dead and are collecting Social Security and voting. So there's a lot of people that are waking up. I think more people will continue to wake up. They just have to be completely, like, unfortunately, the truth has to be, like, shoved down their throat almost in a sense where they're like, okay, you know what? There's no way I can argue against this anymore. But there will be plenty of people that will not wake up because they aren't real and they live in fantasy land.
NPCs.
Well, I just like you said, I traveled today. I was in the truck and I listened to Ford F-350 by the way. And
Okay, and
That's not a Chevy.
which is a General Motors product. But anyway, the Sirius or radio work to where I listen to a lot of different talk radio, and it's what you said, Gonzo. The different news organizations can report the same thing in terminology that changes one's perspective. The greatest thing we have is the youth are all about the direction that we're heading in
yes,
with President Trump. And they believe in what he's doing. Elon Musk is a cult figure to them, or to them, I'm sorry. So I think Doge is grabbing people's attention.
I do think that if you look at, I mean, if you honestly look at, you okay there? If you look at the direction of where the young people are looking to, that gives you a pretty good idea of where the country as a whole is heading. Because, realistically, generally across the board, young people aren't the biggest demographic to vote. It's obviously grown over the past few elections. And a lot of people, not just in America, but across the world, are starting to lean more right just because they're tired of growing up in a system that is essentially pushing them into, more debt, useless college degrees, can't afford a house, all this stuff. And on top of, of course, mass illegal immigration, people that are coming in and destroying cultures and taking jobs and all this and that. It's happening all over the world. So I think that if you look at the young people and what they want, that gives you a good idea of where this nation and hopefully the rest of the world ends up heading.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into the topic tonight, but speaking of what you just said, I thought it was tremendous that Germany changed direction, and the leading cause was immigration.
Correct.
So I think countries want to have the solitude of the base of what they have and diversify in a way that makes the country successful.
Right, exactly. I think at the end of the day, if you just be honest with yourself, you want to vote for the person or the party that is going to make your life better. And I think people are starting to realize how important that actually is. And if you don't do that, one of the most important things for most people is the economy. The economy tanks. Scott Norris is getting ahead of us. I think he asked 5 things you accomplished last week.
Well, I'm sure it wasn't much, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But I think it's important with the political scenario that's going on for the amount of money that's been donated to Ukraine from the United States in the excess of $300 billion, where Joe Biden was just content in giving them the money. Then we have President Trump that's trying to make a deal to scoop some of that money with the mineral rights. And I think that we're on the verge of stopping that war, which will be tremendous.
Sorry, you said you were on the verge of what with the war?
Stopping the war.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
By us gaining the mineral rights. But
me personally, I don't think there is an actual war going on, but we'll at least stop the narrative for sure.
There's a lot of people dying.
Supposedly, yeah.
Oh,
Until you actually go to like Kiev and see that everything's okay. But the point is, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think ultimately what's going to happen is the United States is going to essentially end up owning half of Ukraine and Russia's going to own the other half. We're going to use the minerals to get some of our money back. If it's not in, liquid cash itself.
then it'll be in assets instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one of the things that scares me about that scenario,
Commodities.
I'm sorry?
I was saying commodities instead of assets. Please,
Okay.
please go on.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, number one, Ukraine doesn't have a port that can handle doing all this. So the United States is going to have to invest money to develop doing it. And I don't know if it'll be with Ukrainian people, or if we send Americans there. I just don't want to be in a situation to where Putin, being a wild card, could react in a way detrimental to get up. It could be a trap, actually.
Well, one point that Scott just brought up is he believes it's a mistake because now it becomes a national interest. And we know Scott is, 100% like, let's stay out of it. Let's focus on ourselves. Very abolitionist, so to say. Or is that the right word? No, that's not the right word. But anyway. So, I mean, it's definitely something to consider.
Well, like, what would
As
be
long
the
as we don't
mistake?
put American people or American troops, I don't see the difference than allowing Ukraine to become part of NATO. If we get that infiltrated into Ukraine, I think if Ukraine mines and does what they do and they ship it to us, kumbaya. As far as us going over there, it goes back to what we talked about last week or last week. We don't want to be in Gaza rebuilding. Just you're gonna put American people in peril.
Yeah, I get what you say. And Scott, isolationist. Thank you. That is the word I was looking for. It came to me halfway through. Anyway.
Yeah, but
Go
never mind. Just move on. I don't want to talk about that.
Why? Why not?
Just go on.
Bring it up.
I want our $400+ billion back some way, somehow. They're going to have to
Yes.
give it back some way, somehow. I don't care how
Absolutely.
it's done. They're going to give it back.
Absolutely. I agree.
And Lincoln's going to step down. And he's going to be a huge embarrassment. But I want those two things, definitely.
Yeah. I would agree
Okay,
with
say
that.
that again. JB.
Zelensky
You
has
want
to step
Zelensky
down.
Step down?
Yes. Like today.
Well,
Yesterday.
he's coming to America Friday,
Yep.
hopefully to sign this agreement, and peace will come, and they'll have elections, and they'll find themselves a new comedian.
I mean, I think we might have said it last week, or maybe it was in between the shows, but he essentially set it up. He said, listen, I'm willing to step down if it, is essentially for the benefit of peace and prosperity in Ukraine. And of course, a few days later, he's been now officially labeled as a dictator and not a legitimate president. So like you just said, he's eventually going to step down. They're going to have a real election. And we'll see how that all goes. But
Macron will probably be next.
Scott is, however, he does believe that Ukrainian women are pretty hot and we should import them to the
There we
United
go. I knew there was something good coming. Yeah.
Are we going to give them? Are we going to give them a green card or a gold card?
Ooh, I think it depends. Like if they're an 8 and up, they get a gold card, and 7 below, they'll just get a green card.
Oh, I love you. All right, well, let's go to Doge. Elon Musk.
This thing.
He hemorrhaged the Democratic Party by sending an email out to every federal employee asking for 5 things that they did last week. And somehow that created an absolute meltdown where every business that's in the United States of America or in the world that's not part of the government, your boss sends you an email and say, hey, give me a rundown, give me an update of what you did last week. How is that a problem?
No, honestly, I mean, whoever thought that accountability was a real thing. But you're absolutely right. I mean, if you work in the private sector and your boss, basically wants an update on what you're doing, you better have a good update. If you tell him, I basically sat at home and did nothing, then he's going to fire you and he's going to, be pretty upset and wish that he could garnish your future wages.
And also it shows like no one answered, right? It was only like 40% returned the email. And even if that didn't have an actual answer for what they actually did.
Do you realize how difficult it is to fire a federal employee?
Well, I think that's why he's giving them the option to step down and take the severance pay, because a lot of people are going to end up. I mean, a lot of people already have done that, so he's essentially bribing them into stepping down now, or else you're essentially going to end up getting fired because they are going to be able to do it. It might be more difficult, but obviously they've been doing it, and they're like, okay, either you step down and take a few months' pay, or you're getting screwed.
Well, it's accountability, responsibility, and dependability. And no federal employee is willing to step up and do that to where you just said it. Private sector employees want their companies to be successful so they can continue to have their job.
Exactly.
When you have federal employees stating, I'm going to be here 30 years, he's only going to be here 4 years. That's a problem.
Yeah. Well, of course, as a federal employee, if especially, I mean, in the recent years, you view your job as essential, and then when a new administration comes in and says, look, you know, more than half of these positions are actually unessential, now your position's in jeopardy. Now you have to actually either bring value to your job / the federal government, or you're going to have to leave.
Look at the people who worked for the former administration.
No.
I can't recall the bald-headed dude name with the mustache, goatee, who stole luggage. I don't know if he was
Yeah.
transit or what he or she was, but that's who worked for the federal government. Then you got a he, whatever they were, in a military uniform representing the United States of America.
Playing dress up.
However they do it, whether it was G.I. Joe or Barbie, the Biden administration was a shit show. We have 4 weeks under this new administration, and I think we have, correct me, JP, if I'm wrong, 17 appointed.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Tulsi Gabbard. So I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. They need to put up or shut up Epstein, MLK, JFK. Get all that out there, right?
100%, I agree.
I think the MLK one should be the easiest one to release. Then RFK, JFK, and then Diddy, then
Why
Epstein.
do you say MLK is the easiest?
Based on people involved, agencies involved, and people who are still alive, actually, or people who are not still alive that were involved. And so it really wouldn't have a blowback on, actual family members of them.
Well, my highlight that I'm excited for the rest of the week, and I hope it takes place, is that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are going to Fort Knox to see if the gold is actually there.
Oh, yeah.
I also think it's
So,
in more than one place, too. But yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I want him to show us that the gold's in Fort Knox, and then we have more of it.
All right, well, do you know how much gold is supposed to be at Fort Knox, JB?
I thought it was like 4,600 tons, but I think we have more.
Well, so basically, Fort Knox was created after World War I to store gold. It started in 1937. So essentially, since 1937, which is amazing to me, it's only been entered 4 times. 1943, 1974, and 2017. It's a 109,000 acre base / storage facility for gold. which when you look at what the United States of America is slash worth, there's only $6 billion worth of gold.
Six billion?
6 billion, that's all there. The other gold that the United States has is in Denver at the Mint there, and at West Point Bullion totals approximately 8 tons, which is more than the next 3 countries combined. And those countries are Germany, Italy, and France. So you tell me how the gold of the United States of America, which is essentially going to be $12 billion, supports the whole monetary network of the world.
Do you think it's more?
No, I think there's a lot more than we know about, but I don't think it's just worth $6 billion. I think there's a lot more.
Well, prove me wrong. I am a Crocker. I'm always right.
As you said,
I'm wrong.
it's only been open or seen by what? Only been open 4 times, so I wouldn't know.
I mean,
Well,
yeah.
Based off of the quantities that are in there, that is worth $6 billion.
Yeah, I guess
The USA has approximately 8.133 tons of gold, metric tons of gold, where Germany has 3.3, Italy has 2.4, France has 2.4. It's the most heavily guarded position in the world. There's 30,000 soldiers where tanks are there, helicopters are there. So if the gold is not there, we have had the wool pulled over.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that the information presented to us, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not entirely true. It could go one of 2 ways. Like you said, the gold might not be there. Maybe it's hidden somewhere else. Or there could be more of it there because, I mean, I just don't see it strategic for the federal government to essentially tell us and the rest of the world how much gold they actually have and where it is. So I would think it's safe to assume that we have a lot more gold, or at least access to gold, more so than what we have been told. That's just my opinion.
I would be curious to, like, when you go in, you put inventory in. Do you ever take the inventory out? So we've had this amount of gold since 1937, or has there been gold added? Tracking what you're saying, guys.
Mm-hmm. Right. And
so has this been like the initial fill it up, this is all it can hold, and this is what we got?
well, I'm sure too, like, yeah, maybe there was some that was added and we don't know about it. I'm sure there's other vaults too that we have access to that aren't commonly known about. I do think that, for example, the Vatican is housing a bunch of gold. I firmly believe that. I think too, like other nations that you mentioned previously probably have more than is publicly noted. But yeah, I mean, I think we're just gonna have to wait and find out. And if this
What
is
happened? What happened? They open the door and it's empty.
they say, well, good thing we're not in the gold standard anymore because
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think if that were to be the case, which is all hypothetical, but fun to talk about, uh, the power of America would go by the wayside quickly.
Yeah, I mean,
What do we have? A bunch of paper.
right, was just practically worthless. I mean, I think I'm sure part of the reason why they pushed to take us off the gold standard was so that certain people of interest could use that gold. Scott says FDR stole the gold. Maybe someone or a group is able to essentially steal that gold from the United States and use it for themselves. So, I mean, the hypotheticals are almost endless. We have to definitely figure out what the real details are.
I'm hoping they allow cameras to go in
Yes.
and just scan around and say, this is the United States gold for $6 billion.
Or more.
Potentially.
Potentially, maybe.
But when the gold standard, how everything run, there's not enough gold. Just take what we just went over, guys. We said that the United States has essentially 8 tons of gold, which is equivalent to 12 billion. Germany has 3. Italy 2, France 2. You're talking less than $30 billion worth of gold.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the world standard is.
Right. Well, I think too, the goal is probably not to use it, for example, like, against our national debt. I think they're obviously finding other ways to combat the national debt. For example, all the stuff that Doge is doing, all the money that they're saving, so that way the budget can come down drastically. I think that the figuring out exactly how much gold we have is more of a precautionary thing. I don't think that they're going to actively try and use that against, the national debt. Because especially, too, like if you're right, it's only, let's say hypothetically, conservatively, $15 billion worth of gold, let's say that's what we got. It's not going to do anything for us in terms of national debt. So I think there's other plans for that. It wouldn't make sense to just kind of use that to combat the national debt, for example.
It's ironic, the country that we did not list with gold is China.
And I don't think we'll have clear details on how much gold China has access to.
But I think if this administration will move forward and do what they say they're going to do with natural gas, crude oil, that the United States will be the most powerful country in the world, hands down, within the next 11 months.
Absolutely.
More so than we already are.
For sure.
Yeah.
We got anybody chiming in?
Scott's holding it down for us. It's just Scott right now.
All right. Well, he's probably cold and lonely in Missouri.
All right. What's next?
Let's go to the FBI. Cash Patel and the new assistant, Dan Bongino.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think the two of those gentlemen are going to shake the FBI through their ankles.
Good. Yeah.
I don't know if everybody, boyfriend and girlfriend that were scamming to get Trump. We have to get all those people out of government positions.
No, I agree.
What were their names, guys? Remember?
Who is it? The couple that did what?
The guy and the girl. It was like Hurricane Trump or Hurricane something. It was like they were backdooring to try to go after Trump.
I think that was Peter Strzok and somebody else. It was like 8 years ago.
Yes, that's it. Yep. But those people were FBI government employees that ultimately were trying to have a coup.
Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. We have their text messages.
What was the most exquisite text message?
Well, I mean, they made the whole fake dossier against him, right? Is that what the hurricane thing you mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that just shows you how detrimental just a few people in the government can actually be if they get news organizations to publicize just a couple articles.
Right.
That's what's frustrating. And it's actually a breath of fresh air. I did hear the young lady today say that they were going to allow new voices and to get rid of some of the traditional news media. I think it's great that AP got kicked out because when you report false things, why should you be in there having the ability to do anything?
Exactly.
No, I think too, especially if you have proof against false claims and you have an organization that is repeatedly and intentionally reporting false claims, they should be held accountable because, I think too, part of the reason is we have to look at the laws regarding propaganda. Propaganda has been legalized in the United States for so long. We have to relook at that argument and just figure out where we're going to go from here.
Well, freedom of speech is one of the things, but when you're in a position, a news organization, to where you report something that's false, that you have not done your due diligence to research, and it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think over the past 4 years, it's amazing. Have either one of you seen a picture of Joe Biden since he's left office?
Who?
Exactly. I saw a picture of Kamala Harris with her husband in a grocery store in California. That's it. It's people need to get behind making America great again.
Exactly.
This guy's not one way or the other. He gives a shit about Gonzo, gives a shit about JB, and everyone else watching that's not communicating. And I understand the ICE scenario, talked about it for months, and to me, I'm sympathetic. I have a plan that if any one of them want to call me, give them my plan. I don't think it's beneficial to America to send everybody back to Mexico, to Honduras, Guatemala. I think we need to figure out a way to make money off of the people who are already here.
Absolutely. While we still have time too, hold on, let's see. Do you think here's a question. Do you think the Doge $5,000 refund should be passed out or paid onto the debt? What do you think, Crocker?
I think it should be passed out.
I would agree with you. I do think that the explanation they gave, where essentially 20% of what they're saving is going to go to the United States citizens, 20% is going to go towards the debt, and then the other 60% is essentially going to be used to balance out the future budget. I'm okay with that. I do think that the United States taxpayers, especially after finding out how grossly mismanaged their money has been used, they need to receive some sort of refund or compensation. I'm okay with it.
I think with what's happened in Western North Carolina, LA, and across America with COVID, if a $5,000 check showed up in your mailbox You're grabbing people's attention. And you're like, look, I came in here. I told you what I was going to do. I found a portion, and I'm splitting it with you. We're giving you this much. We're putting this much towards this, and we're putting the rest over here. I think it would have tremendous value for the administration.
And Scott says, he brings to the point that there are a lot of folks who have never paid into the system, which does make sense. And I'm not sure what the details are going to be on exactly who receives it, but I do know plenty of people in this room that have paid a decent amount of taxes, unfortunately, to the United States of America, and has been misused tremendously. Plenty of people across the United States have as well. So I think, too, kind of like you were saying, Crocker, if it can be used as a way to, help people get back on their feet, hopefully we know that there's going to be plenty of people that misuse the money, and there's going to be plenty of people that are smart with it. But if it can help the average American kind of pay down some of their personal debts maybe, or just, afford some of the necessities, I think that would be a good thing. I think that my opinion is this. The money can be better used for the American people compared to how the government has been using it.
I think anytime you get people money to where they can go spend it for whatever they want to spend it on, it's going to stimulate the economy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Whether it's restaurants, food, groceries, shopping, everything will elevate. But if you keep it within the government, everything will stay stagnant and nothing will.
Exactly. I mean, if they've been printing money for so long, the taxes paid into the system really is useless compared to how much money they've been printing. So I think there's plenty of reasons why it's practically, useless to continue to have the United States citizens, quote unquote, fund the federal government to this extent. Income taxes,
now,
property taxes.
Abolish the IRS right now.
Absolutely.
Whatever the quantity of illegal immigrants are in the country, they're going to spend money in the States of America and have a flat sales tax to where whatever someone buys, whether it's a $3 million Bugatti or an $8 taco at a food truck, it goes, it's done, and everybody's finished.
Exactly. And if, like you said, if it's just sales tax, for example, that's the one thing that has to be paid essentially. And everyone, like you said, even someone that comes here illegally is going to be paying into the system in the form of sales tax, essentially. So,
and it accumulates greater than trying to get someone fill out their taxes. Just send a dollar amount in. Just whatever you buy, you're done. If you want to buy a $50 million house, taxes, done. If you want to buy a shoddy Bojangles 4-piece chicken tenders, you're done. You paid your tax. You might have to pay later, but that's a personal problem.
You're paying in other ways.
That's right. Well, let's talk about something fun. I know Scott will dig this. Maybe other people. We try to talk about something not so serious. Chevrolet, for you guys, is bringing back the Nova and El Camino, and now Corvette is going to make an SUV to compete with the Porsche and the other, I guess the Lamborghini, whatever those SUVs are. I'm not familiar with the names, if you know what they are, guys.
Yeah, the Lamborghini Urus.
And there's Porsche has an S.
Right.
So do you think that Corvette, the American name, should transfer into that model?
I mean, I don't see a reason why they shouldn't. I think it's more variety for the consumer. At the end of the day, it's essentially, more money for them. They want to essentially appeal to a more audience where someone's like, hey, well, I want an SUV, but I want something that's luxurious, or I want something that's more sporty, that has more horsepower. There's plenty of people that want stuff like that, which is obviously why people go and split four ways a Lamborghini Urus in California, because it's all about the clout and stuff like that. So I think just for them personally, I mean, I could care less, me personally. It just, I guess, makes sense for them for a business standpoint. Scott says no, he's against it. Personally, I really just don't care. What do you think about it?
I just come to the conclusion, when you have status, name, you are synonymous with this. I think there's probably history, like Ford Thunderbird. They had their Thunderbird way back in the day. They reintroduced a piece of shit, and we're not. But technology is now, I just think it's so hard to be competitive, because I don't know if either one of you guys remember the Avalanche, Chevrolet Avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crew cab truck with a little space in the back.
It's ugly.
And all of the plastic turned gray. So I just stay with what you're good at.
Yeah.
And it just makes no sense.
Scott says, remember, he's a Ford guy.
I am a Ford.
But yeah, I mean, you do bring up a point. There's a reason why they stopped making the Avalanche.
So why would you recreate an El Camino? You guys are younger to where you probably don't even remember the El Camino or the what was the Ford version?
Well, I think to answer your question real quick.
Thunderbird.
What's that?
Thunderbird. I like those cars.
No, they had.
To bring up
Ford had a same scenario as an El Camino. I'm trying to think.
But real quick, to answer your
I
question.
can tell you.
To answer your question, the Ranchero.
Sure, that's it.
It's all marketing. Why they would bring back their modern version of a classic car. It's all marketing. I think that they're going to sell out of those rather quickly, just because of either nostalgia or people feel like they missed out. Or at the end of the day, these corporations can essentially do whatever they think is best to sell more units, and people will buy them. That's just a fact.
All right, no doubt. Now I want to close tonight on something. I've never been a conspiracy theorist,
Dun, dun,
but
dun.
I'm going to ask both of you and everyone else: did we actually land on the moon?
In what year?
Any year.
I would say, me personally, I don't. Let's start with this. I don't believe the footage that we saw of the first moon landing is authentic.
Yeah, because Stanley Kubrick came out with the 2001 Space Odyssey like the same year or the year after, I forget.
That's not even why. You have,
Well, I mean, not the reason why, but
Buzz Aldrin, who said multiple times we never went to the moon. You have that too. I think there's a lot of discrepancies in what actually happened. Quite honestly, that's the way I look at it.
I asked my phone a question, and my Instagram, my X, It just bombarded with all of the footage that says we never did.
Interesting.
That it was a movie set in Arizona, something to that effect. And you look at different pictures. I just was curious. I want to know, did we ever land on the moon?
I think we'll find out.
Why can we not ask our wonderful president and the Doge leader, Elon Musk, did we ever land on the moon?
I do think that we're going to find out more information about this, especially with Elon Musk and SpaceX. I do think that we're going to get to a point, hopefully in the next 4 years, where more information comes out, more, hopefully with more proof, so to say. Because I've looked into it quite a bit, and my issue with it is there's too many, like, holes, so to say. You know, where people have caught certain footage and it's clearly in a studio or it's a green screen or there's, you know, a mic that's hanging there. So it's just like when you keep seeing stuff like that, for me, I'm like, okay, well, why does it seem so hard to prove that we're actually going to the moon?
Well, one thing that got was the length of time it takes to, hey, Gonzo, and you responded immediately. Well, how in the hell is that possible from Houston, Texas to the moon?
And then, you know, to the president's desk on a landline and back on TV.
Yeah. So, if America is lying about that, what else are they lying about?
Well, that's another thing. We're finding out more and more that we've been lied to for so many decades, maybe even, you know, over a century. All this stuff's coming out about, you know, JFK, MLK, all the files are coming out. I think that it's not insane to believe that NASA also may have lied to us. I don't think that's crazy to...
How in the hell? All right. You've seen the spacecraft, right?
Yes.
How did that car come out of the spacecraft?
I don't know, but green screen makes sense.
I have a kid, he's probably 15 or 16, and he honestly believed, not my kid, but he believed that car folded up, and I was like, okay, what about the tire?
Auto-inflated.
Everyone can believe what they want to believe. Factual reality is we never went to the moon.
Wow.
Ain't no way.
Wow.
There's no way possible. I've treaded water out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean for close to an hour. That was stressful and strenuous. But going to the moon and playing golf, driving a buggy, and coming back, nah, didn't happen.
So let me ask you this. Are the astronauts actually stranded in space?
At station,
Yeah.
yeah, I honestly do believe that. And Elon Musk will be the savior. Because you got other countries involved in that. You don't just have America. What do you guys think?
Quite possibly in a studio as well.
Well, Elon Musk is going to get called out because one thing about Florida, where we live down there, you can look up in the sky and you see exhaust from being launched.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a caveat to that. Supposedly, we have all of these satellites up there, but you never see a satellite in a picture of anybody outside working on the space station.
Interesting.
And these satellites are supposedly everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, JD, what you got for the week? Walk the plank. I know your life was grand.
Here we
I don't
go.
understand why they keep calling on me. Yeah.
There's only 3 of us, so
You never go first.
you know it's coming.
I don't know. I do agree with you. At the very beginning, I think that we want to maintain promise made, promise kept. We need to walk the plank and drop all the names on the Epstein list, as well as all the other lists and the MLK files, RFK, JFK, and Diddy list.
Yeah, I would say let's just continue to walk the federal government off the plank.
That too. A lot of people.
Gonzo, I agree. The best thing that's happened, it's only been 4 weeks. And this man has done more than the previous administration 4 years. I think it's phenomenal with literally the pace that he has set about completing missions. Promises said, promises kept. So, as far as I'm concerned, walk the plank today. It's going to be Bojangles. We'll leave it at that, guys.
All right.
All right.
Look out, Bojangles, you're walking the plank. But everyone that's been watching, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure, of course, you check out Branch and Barrel, the best whiskey in all of Colorado and eventually the rest of the world, as well as Blackheart Gear. Make sure you message us about getting some hats. We got the new orange hat out. A lot of gear for the winter if you guys are in the states that still experiences that. And, of course, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can stay updated with when we upload new content. Again, we're here every week, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. But until next week, we'll see you guys later. Take care.
What I had to do and saw it through without exemption.